Hello and welcome. This session is being recorded. My name is Jennifer Robinson, and I will be the moderator for this ADEIL conference. Before we begin, and on behalf of ADEIL, we'd like to thank our generous sponsor, Noodle, and our host, Old Dominion University. We're thankful for their contributions in making this event possible. At some point throughout this session, I will draw the name of somebody randomly out of a virtual hat for a door prize, so stay tuned for me contacting you through chat to get your contact information. But the purpose we're here is for listening to our presentation on course development resources. Please welcome Dr. Smruti Shah, Dr. Kristyn, Melissa Ferguson, Dongli Zhang, and Kristyn Rose. The floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Dr. Smruti Shah, and I'm an instructional designer at ODU, working with the Division of Digital Learning. Today, along with my colleagues, I will be presenting this showcasing actually the course development resource website that we have created to help faculty with the design and the development stages of the course for developing their online courses. And before my colleagues introduce themselves, I just wanted to mention that one of our colleagues, Kristyn Rose, who is the Senior Instructional Designer and the Quality Coordinator at ODU, has contributed to this presentation, but will not be able to join us today for some reason. So just want to mention that, and yeah.
So I think we're just going ahead and introducing ourselves. So I am Dr. Kristyn. I'm a Senior Instructional Designer and Coordinator of Digital Pedagogy here at ODU Global.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Dongli Zhang. I'm the Instruction Designer at ODU Global as well.
Hello everyone. My name is Melissa Ferguson, and I am the Lead Instructional Designer here at ODU Global.
All right, so just before we showcase our course development resource site, I just wanted to give you a brief information on what it is. So we have used this course development roadmap basically to develop the course development resource site, and we walk the faculty through the different stages of course development, beginning from the planning stage, moving on to the design, development, and then finalizing their course. For the presentation, we are only going to be focusing on the plan and the design stage. And we will then be talking about how we can use generative AI tools to help us with the course development and the planning phases. So let's get started. So this is the course development resource site that we developed, and for each of these modules, you'll be able to see that we have dedicated each module to different stages of course development. And as I said, we'll only be focusing on the planning and the design stage. So the first thing that we talk about is when we're developing with faculty or when they're developing their own courses, the first thing that we need for course development is to have an outline for their courses. And this particular module focuses on how to create an outline for a course and how to write the learning objectives at the course level and the module level. And when we have developed this course, we provided them information on how to develop the outlines for their course. Specifically, we informed them how they can, there are different ways of developing an online course, the outline for the courses. And one of the ways that you can do is by providing, like organizing your materials by time periods. If you're teaching like a history course or something, or you can organize your outline by starting with the foundational concepts and then moving on to the advanced. So there are different ways that you can develop your course outline. And based on that, we also provide this document that they can start filling out to, plan their course outline for them. And they can jot the course title, the course topics, and the subtopics that they plan to cover. So this is a great way to get started with what you want to have in your course. This is great for faculty who has actually taught a course before and want to redesign something, or has a better knowledge of what they want to incorporate in their courses. However, if you are a faculty who is being tasked to create a course from scratch and don't know where to start, you can definitely use AI. Especially one of them is the ChatGPT AI tool that you can definitely leverage to help you brainstorm and draft the course outline. Again, I'm saying draft because it's just a draft. After all, it's you who has to make the final call and make the changes according to what you really want to teach in your course. So here's an example. Say, for instance, if you are a faculty for history and you're developing a course from scratch for the introduction to American history at the undergraduate level, you can use ChatGPT to produce those first initial draft for you. And we had the poll here at the beginning. How many of you have used ChatGPT before? So did you guys get a chance to answer those? And if you have used it before, that's great. If not, then I'm just going to make sure that I just kind of show it to you what ChatGPT is. So this is the ChatGPT feature, and this is where you can add, oh, wow. So that's great. So everyone has used ChatGPT, so I'm not going to like go through the major details here. That's great. So let's see. So basically, for people who are not that familiar with ChatGPT, basically this is a square box that you just enter the prompt for the ChatGPT to provide you the responses for. So say, for instance, you can simply just say like, give me a, cake, and hit enter, and it basically generates the information for you that you can start using, and you know that this is how basically the ChatGPT works. So just wanted to show you that. So that's how we did for this one. If you are a faculty who is trying to develop an online course outline for the introduction to American history, you can provide this chat prompt in the box that I just showed, and it develops this course outline for you. And it also, it also organizes the materials according to the weeks. So it kind of helps you with organizing the information. And this is just a bare bones. You can just start with it, and then you can always make edits as you go. Then, then we are also talking about how we can develop writing the learning objectives for your course and the module level objectives. And this is where we provide them information on how you can create the course level learning objectives, what they are, how they are at the broader scope, and how you can how to develop these module level learning objectives using the Bloom's taxonomy, and make them more focused for each modules that you're covering in your course. We also provide them different links to the resources that they can leverage to identify how to develop measurable learning objectives and refine the ones that they have. But again, if you are the one who is, you know, tasked to develop something from scratch, ChatGPT can also help you with that by helping you generate some learning objectives. And similarly, it's not just particularly for one content, you can use it for different content that you are developing. So in the first one, I was talking about if you're a history professor, right? Now, say, for instance, if you're teaching psychology and you want to develop something for your course, and you're looking for learning objectives for your course, you can simply put information in ChatGPT saying that, please provide me a course learning objective for the introduction to psychology, and also mention the level that you're teaching. And it generates the objectives for you. But one thing that you have to be, and as I said, this is always a draft, right? Because we all know that it also provides certain verbs that are not very measurable, like understand. So this is where you have to come and we need the human eye to look at these things and say, okay, that I need to make some revisions here. based on what I need to teach and so forth. So it does give you the first draft of everything. Similarly, you can also ask for the module level objectives based on the course information that you provided, and then it also develops those and provides those for you. So this is just a gist of how you can use ChatGPT to help you in the first planning stages of developing the outline and the writing objectives. And if you have any questions for our presentation, please feel free to put them in the chat and we'll answer them at the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, so that's what we are covered on the first page. Let me just try to close this one. Okay. Okay, so the module 3 course design, we will start with the assessment. So on the first page of assessment, we introduce the basic information about the assessment, and then we provide what the types of assessment that a course can have, and basically formative assessment and summative assessment. For each type, we provide examples, like for formative assessment, faculty can think about quizzes, practice presentations, or learning checks. For summative assessment, some examples might be midterm exam, final exam, or final project that the faculty want students to accomplish at the end of the course. So this part, we will emphasize alignments of their assessment with their course learning objectives and module learning objectives. At this part, we emphasize the Bloom's taxonomy again, trying to show so faculty can use this one as a guidance to say what appropriate assessment is for the course. At the end, we also provide resources, some supplemental materials for faculty to go to dig into more information regarding the assessment. Then on the next page, we talk about alternative assessment. We began with the definition of the alternative assessment or authentic assessment. We talk about when to use an alternative assessment. And we will provide examples like the student alternative assessment can be writing an article or making a marketing piece or present a product at the end of the course. So we also have a reflection moment for faculty to consider several questions regarding the alternative assessment. Then we also provide a section about resources that are related to alternative assessment. So we definitely can use AI tool to help us to draft some ideas for assessment. So I will start with, use ChatGPT to create a formative assessment. So for this part, I use a course, Water Resources Engineering, for undergraduate students. And I pick one module learning objective, which is distinguish various runoff methods based on basin size. So I put such prompts in ChatGPT. I ask ChatGPT to create a formative assessment that will align with this module learning objective. And I also provided the the course level, such this course will be for undergraduate students. Then the ChatGPT gave me some result. They provided me about 5 scenarios, and they also provide me some grading guidance for me to think about and a rubric as well. And let's see, you would like to see a different example for the formative assessment. So you could revise or modify your prompt and then regenerate it in ChatGPT. So I modified my previous prompts. I wanted, instead of a scenarios, I would like to see a not a check quiz that using the same learning objective and for the same level of the audience of the course. So then ChatGPT will gives me 10 questions, and just showing you the result in ChatGPT. And this is a previous one. So once you put your modified prompts, it will automatically give you the result. Then I got my 10 questions, and at the end, it provided me the correct answers for each one. So that's for the formative assessment. Then see, you want to use the, to create a summative assessment, then the AI tool also can create some examples for you to consider. So for this summative assessment, I use the same course, Water Resources Engineering course, and I pick the learning objective, categorize water withdrawals and water use. Then I enter my prompts in GPT, I'm sorry. Then I put my prompts as what kind of summative assessment align with this learning objective. So as you can see, ChatGPT gives 10 different kind of summative assessment that will align with this learning objective. And you can go through, as a faculty, we recommend you to go through, use human eyes to determine which one you think is more appropriate for your course. And let's see, we also want to create some alternative assessment. So we use the same learning objective. We just revise or modify our prompts in ChatGPT. So I asked what alternative or authentic assessment will align with this learning objective. Then ChatGPT will provide you a list of the alternative assessment for you to consider. So basically we'll go through them and read them through, thinking about the audience of your course and pick ones that you like and modify it as needed. So that's what we were planning for the assessment and how you can use ChatGPT to give you some ideas or sparkle some ideas for your assessment.
Sorry, couldn't get to my microphone button. I'm next, and we are going to be talking about activities next. So part of what we talk about with learning activities, that's the next section in our little workshop, or our resources, we call it. So when we do that, we talk about learning activities, and we throughout the entire course, we talk about alignment. We're always making sure that our materials, our activities, our assessments always align with the objectives. So we just can continually emphasize that. And we talk about different kinds of activities and assessments. So that's kind of what this page is. And on the next page, we talk about different active learning strategies and talking about what active learning is. And we also go a little bit over generative learning strategies. So talking about, okay, what kind of strategies could help somebody if you're looking for them, the learner, to recall, or if you're looking for them to integrate new knowledge with pre-existing knowledge, if you're asking them to organize or elaborate. So I'm not going to go into this in detail because we're really not talking about generative learning in this presentation, but that's one of the things that we have within our resource. And then that brings us to talking about how we can use AI to help us generate learning activities. So again, when you're trying to generate a learning activity, you're going to probably keep in mind, okay, what is the objective? What level, what Bloom's level are you looking at? And all that as you are asking AI to help you. So I'm not going to play this video. This is just something that we have in the resource, but it talks about not only using AI for yourself as the instructor or instructional designer to create stuff for your course, but also asking students to use AI within their assignments. So I'll show a little bit about that. One of the first ones I wanted to kind of talk about was just course introductions. I mean, most of us, when we're creating an online course, we ask students to introduce themselves, which is fine, and we can come up with some fun questions. But one thing we could do is we could ask AI to have students ask AI to create an instruction for them. One thing that I would always keep in mind, though, is that you don't want to put too personal of information into AI. So just keeping that in mind in terms of identifying data, but you can make it fun. So for example, you could say, use the following information about me and introduce me as a champion prize fighter. I mean, don't I look like one? So So here's an example. I did that, use the following information to introduce me as a champion prize fighter. And I put, you know, my name, kind of where I'm from. My favorite cookie is Girl Scout Thin Mints, in case anyone wants to buy me a package. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And ladies and gentlemen, gather around for an extraordinary introduction to a champion, both inside and outside the ring. So on and so forth. It's just kind of a fun thing for students to do as an intro. It kind of gains their attention, gets them interested. So that's one silly little thing you can do. But then you can also use it to develop creative stories that span a whole course. So I worked with an instructor this past term where it was a course on workforce supervision. And we decided to create a story that ran throughout the whole course that that kind of focused or emphasized key topics. And so we created a main character and then asked ChatGPT to create a story around things this new supervisor had to do. So I think I have this. Let me find it in here. Yes. Okay. So what we did is we said, act as a university instructor developing this course. Here's the first module in this course. And we want an authentic story that highlights key supervisory skills related to certain key topics in that module. The story should focus on Shanice, who is a production supervisor, and then she works for Textiles US, a manufacturing plant. We also pointed out that they have diverse employees all over the world. And sometimes if you put ask it to create a narrative, but you don't really have any kind of conflict or issues, it'll just create a kind of like a once upon a time, you know, happy story. And so if you're really trying to talk about some key issues, you kind of want to let it know, okay, include some conflict related to supervisory skills. So we went ahead and did that. I will tell you that I probably generated this a few times and then took portions or adapted portions. I never really took it completely straight from ChatGPT. We always adapted it, but it would give me, here's the story. It talked about the various concepts: planning and control, organizing, and so forth. You know, I asked it, certain times I asked it to make sure that the employees were diverse, you know, so sometimes they had diverse names, you know, because we want our learners to be represented in our narratives. So it gave a conclusion. I also asked it, because it was a story in the course, I wanted to make sure that we created some kind of knowledge check so students weren't just passing it by. So I asked to create some multiple choice questions at a comprehension level related to that story and related to certain supervisory skills. It went ahead and did that. I also said to please include the correct answers, because when I don't, it won't always tell me the correct answers, and then I have to ask it again. So there's example. And then I also asked, I said, well, maybe I want reflective questions. Maybe I don't want just multiple choice questions. So I asked it to generate some reflective questions. And that's something that you could just put on the page, or you could put within a discussion board. So that's an example that we did in a course most recently. Okay. You could also ask it to create real world scenarios and simulations. And so in this case, I asked it to kind of create this scenario or simulation that a student would go through and answer questions. I'll just show it to you really quickly. Basically, I ask it to act as a simulation. You will pose the decision point and wait for students to answer before continuing. Do you understand? So sometimes when it's a complex, you can kind of put part of it. Do you understand? ChatGPT says, yes, I do understand. So give me more information. Then I say, okay, here's some more information. The startup is a new electronic scooter company. So here's where you could then give it to the student, and they have the scenario, there's the decision, and then what's your decision? Am I going to accept the investment? Am I going to decline? So, oh, I got to hit continue this conversation. Let's see if it'll do it. I did it earlier, but then also ChatGPT was not always happy with me today. Okay, we're going to say yes. I'm going to accept. Come on, Chatty G. There you go. Okay. So it's going to give me, thank you for the decision. It will continue on, although it's decision point 2. Good. It's been a little slow for me today, but it's working. So it will give me another decision point, and then will ask me another question, and I'll go through and select A or B. I think I'm not going to wait for it because it seems like it's a little slow today, but it would, I think I asked it to do 3 decision points. It will take the student through 3 decision points and then create a summary. So you could have students do this and then kind of reflect on it, maybe in a discussion. Similarly, you can have students do problem solving or real world applications. So you could ask them to, you could write a well-defined problem statement with constraints and parameters, and then have students do that, and then put it into ChatGPT or another AI, and then it will kind of give you some information. You might say, okay, now here's another, here's different constraints. See what the differences are, and then reflect on that in a discussion. I think I have that right here. Right, so I said, you're a marketing manager, please provide you're creating some kind of thing that's going to be a competitor for Coke and Pepsi regionally. So here's your $10 million that you're going to spend. What are the steps? So you could ask students to do this and then give them different parameters and see what it comes up with, and then have them discuss, well, what are the differences and what do I see there? And you can have students create their own content too. So, instead of telling students that they can't use AI, why not have them use it for something creative, for something that's going to expand what they could do on their own? Use AI as a collaborator. So you can ask them to, design a trip on something that they're looking at. In another presentation earlier, we talked about national parks. So you can ask them to design a trip to particular national parks, or you can ask them to plan a national park, and what are the things that they have to think about when they're doing that. So again, using AI to help them solve problems. And then finally, you can ask them, you can tell them to use AI for self-directed learning. So they can use AI as a study aid. They can go to ChatGPT and say, here's what I'm studying. Give me 20 multiple choice questions, quiz me on this, or create some flashcards and help me study for it. There's also, I just want to show, I think I'm running out of time. So there's one other thing they can do, use consensus for research. And I've just started using that, but basically you can use it to ask is there a relationship between artificial intelligence and the development of critical thinking? I just kind of put that in there, and it will come up with studies that it's found, and you can even ask it to synthesize those. Now, I have not tested this for complete accuracy, and in fact, this one says there's not enough relevant results to answer that. But there are things out there that you can use, or you can have students use to help them with their research. So there's a variety of different types of things that they can use, Duolingo, and this will be something that we will adapt and add to as AI continues to evolve. Okay, I think that's it for me. Next person.
Thanks, Chris. All right, so I'm going to take a look at instructional materials. So building instructional materials, now that we have our assessments and our learning activities developed, then we can circle back and focus on our instructional materials and content. So the online course development training that we have recommends using a combination of the following instructional materials. So these range from text, textbooks, graphics, videos, all of those things are important. However, we do want to prioritize our content. So we have a must know, need to know, and nice to know information. So the nice to know, a lot of times we add in a lot of information, a lot of resources for faculty, or for students rather, but we don't need to make those required reading for our students. We can instead add those as supplemental, designate those as supplemental. on the next page, we focus on the open educational resources. So I'm sure most people are familiar with this. We've included very common OER websites here, including graphics and images and multimedia as well. At the bottom, we have the ODU library guide that really explains in detail about OER and affordable course content. So using AI to build instructional materials is it's a great tool to help facilitate building instructional materials. But like Smruti had originally mentioned, the faculty are the subject matter experts. So in order for the content to be accurate, it's really important that you consider anything that comes out of ChatGPT as a draft. So especially since I'm not sure if anybody has heard about like the biases. I'm sure most people have heard about the biases that is created through ChatGPT. I found this interesting article. I'm just going to share it in the chat about the biases associated with ChatGPT. And it's just really important that we take a look at what has been created to fact check and to ensure that it is not biased information. Also, the faculty, as I had mentioned previously, is the subject matter expert. So they know the content and they know what is specific for their course. Like the content has to align with the objectives, right? So we want to make sure that whatever is built aligns with the course goals and the objectives overall. For my examples here, you can create draft materials, and you can also expand on existing materials. So you can use ChatGPT to create those real world examples and scenarios like Chris had mentioned previously. It can also help to outline some worked examples for complex problems and suggest supplemental materials to enhance comprehension. So we're going to take a look at some of those examples in ChatGPT. So for this example, I'm asking ChatGPT to summarize the bulleted PowerPoint. So I have a PowerPoint presentation, but I'm doing a face-to-face course and I want some lecture notes. So I'm asking ChatGPT to provide me with clear and coherent lecture notes, including relevant materials to supplement the content for comprehensive understanding. I've added all of my bulleted PowerPoint notes here. And this is for a Linux. I don't know anything about Linux. I'm actually working with a faculty. So I'm not sure. So this is the lecture notes that have been provided. And it breaks it down into the headers, what would be spoken of during the lecture. And as you're going through, you can ask ChatGPT to further define or put details to each of these sections if you want to, or you can use this as a basic outline. So either option would work using this tool. So if we scroll all the way to the bottom here, we have our supplementary materials that we had requested. So some readings that ChatGPT thinks would be helpful, keeping in mind that their resources date back to 2021. So just keep that in mind as you're looking through these. It's also some online resources, some tutorials and lecture videos, and some practice exercises. As you can see, they've kept it relatively generic. So if you wanted specific information about that, you could ask directly. After looking at this, I'd like to include some real world examples to further explain the content. And the same outline is provided, but then examples are also provided down below. So it's really a great tool to whenever you are doing a lecture, and this could honestly be face-to-face or online, but to really connect it back to those real-world applications. So this is a great tool and resource to help build out those examples. The next example I want to show here is I'm going to say, consider myself a lecturer in the School of Cybersecurity, teaching the same 600 level face-to-face course in Linux. And I'm asking ChatGPT to write slide content for a module titled Essential Linux Commands. So I've included all of my module level objectives, which is essential, right? We don't want to just have slides that are not connected to our objectives, our module objectives. So we have all of our slides down below. They've created a title slide, outlined all of the module objectives, and then down below are key points. And I love how it's been identified which module level objective that slide is associated with. So as you go down, you have very basic bulleted items, which is essentially what a PowerPoint should be. So it's up to you then to add on to the PowerPoint using the notes section, and you can ask ChatGPT to further expand on each, or use your own expertise to fill in those blanks and further explain that to your students. In this example, I've also asked ChatGPT to provide some worked examples for each slide. So the slides have been identified where worked examples would be applicable, and it's just provided some further detail and how that would actually be applied to a real world Linux system, operating system. All right, the final example I have here is in the creation of online content. So when we're trying to create content for an online course, specifically an asynchronous online course, it has to be explanatory. Like, it can't be in bulleted form and things like that. So I put the prompt here that specified that I was teaching an online asynchronous course, and I asked ChatGPT to write 3 paragraphs with the headers. I've identified those headers, and I used the same PowerPoint bullets that I had previously. I just want to mention too, I have the same prompt that says include relevant materials to supplement the content. So if I scroll down here a bit, it does put it into paragraph form, which can easily be put into the LMS, like a Canvas page, for example, including maybe some supplemental videos or graphics that help really bring information to the students as they need it. But it doesn't have that supplemental material that I had asked for, which occasionally does happen. Like, you put the prompt in, especially if it's 2 parts, it will leave off that one. I'm sure it's like the prompt engineering and I didn't put it in exactly right. So then I just added that at the bottom here. So include supplemental materials for each paragraph that will lead to further comprehension. And that has been done here. So a textbook has been identified, as well as free online course platforms that have learning quizzes and exercises. So for each of the paragraphs that were listed above, they have the extra supplemental materials. So I wanted to take some time for us to practice during this workshop. We don't have a lot of time left, but I was hoping maybe we could test out an example here. So I'm going to post, I know Smruti posted earlier the link to ChatGPT. I'm going to repost that in the chat, along with, there's 3 separate prompts here that you can use and customize. If you're not a faculty, you may not have the details that are needed, like, for example, the learning outcomes or things like that. But you can choose one of the options that are provided here, and then you would put in the details associated. So what I'm going to do is, and once you do that, it would be great if you were able to share your results with us. So when you create a new chat, it automatically provides this icon, a share chat icon. So if you select on that and select on the copy link, we've created a Miro board. It's prompting me to put my name in here, but you don't have to do that part. If you want to post your results, that would be great. So just double click on the sticky and then paste your results there so that we can see what ChatGPT came up with for, the prompt that you used. So for demonstration purposes, I'm going to choose, I'll create an assessment. So I'll create a summative assessment for a 600 level online course. Oops. I'm going to create a new chat and put in my prompt here. So I've identified, and you can see in the prompts, the sections are really, the more detail that you put into those, the more likely it is to provide you with what you're looking for. Another tip prompting tip is to add on the front end, act as though you are and then fill in the blank. So you're a lecturer, you're in the level of course that you're currently teaching. All right, so I added that prompt and it comes up with a summative assessment, the title of the assessment, the instructions for the student, and then it identifies different point values for each of the sections. So it has everything that you would need for that first section of identifying the iambic pentameter. And scanning it would be 30 points. So it builds a multifaceted assessment, and it includes the submission guidelines. If I wanted to, it actually includes the grading rubric at the bottom here. And then if I wanted to share this, and honestly, using this share chat icon has been really helpful because I'm able to share different and copy this link and use it in different areas. So, and I'll go ahead and post that on the board here. And it looks like we only have about 4 minutes left. So I'm actually going to stop sharing and open it up for any questions. I think as we were going through, I also think that there was, and if there's not any other questions, I'll go ahead and share the rest of those examples. But I think that we addressed most of the questions as we were moving through there.
So I think we had a question about sharing some other examples. So that so putting your link to your example on ChatGPT on the Miro, we'll have the Miro, will we keep that open for people to look at the different results?
I think probably for the next week, I'm assuming that we will keep that open. Another example is for learning activities. So the prompt that was provided in the chat is, what learning activity could I use in a type of course to teach a major topic aligned with the module learning objectives? So I've added this prompt here, and it's also associated with iambic pentameter. Obviously, I know very little about that in Shakespeare. And then if I create that or enter that, it's going to provide several different options for learning activities. I don't know if at the front, okay, I specified that it's an online asynchronous course. So it should provide, for the most part, activities that are able to be delivered asynchronously. Sometimes it will come up with these which group activities are optional in an asynchronous space, but it just becomes a little more challenging. So if I wanted to go ahead and share that, I would copy the link, and then I can put that into our learning activity section. All right. Well, I think that we are coming to a close, and I thank you all for coming out today. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to any of us.
Thank you so much to our presenters today. This has been very informative. I know I was taking lots of notes throughout it and playing with ChatGPT at the same time. For those of you who attended, thank you so much. Please be sure to complete the conference evaluation at the end of our conference, and I am putting that link in here for you. Please have a wonderful day and enjoy the rest of the presentations. Take care, everyone.